Okay, let's be honest. Have you ever sat through a presentation that was so dull you felt like you were watching paint dry? We've all been there. But then, you see a TED Talk, and it's powerful, it's memorable, sometimes it even changes how you see the world. So what's the secret? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and decode the science behind what makes an idea stick, all based on the fantastic book Talk Like TED. So what's the big difference? Why is one so forgettable and the other so powerful? Most presentations, you know the type, are just a one-way data dump. It's a stream of facts and bullet points that just kind of wash over you. But a great TED Talk? That's different. It's not just trying to inform you, it's trying to connect with you. It feels less like a lecture and way more like a conversation.
And the difference really is night and day. On one side, you have the typical presentation. It's all jargon, dense slides, and information overload. On the other, you have a TED-worthy talk. And that's an emotional experience. It's a story, it's visual, it's designed to make you feel something. The goal isn't just to move information from their brain to yours, it's to create a real moment of shared understanding.
And get this, it's not some kind of magic. It turns out there's a formula. After looking at hundreds of the most popular TED Talks, a really clear pattern started to show up. The best speakers, we're talking everyone from neuroscientists to rock stars, they all build their presentations on three core pillars. They make them emotional, novel, and memorable. So let's dive into that first one.
First up, you have to touch the heart. This is the secret sauce right here. The most persuasive people on the planet know that just throwing logic and data at an audience, well, it doesn't work. Before you can reach someone's head, you have to connect with their heart. Emotion isn't just fluffy stuff. It's the key that unlocks the door to real engagement.
And check this out. There's actual science behind this. A neuroscientist named Uri Hassan put people in fMRI machines to see what happens in our brains when we listen to a good story. And the result was incredible. The listener's brain activity literally started to sync up and mirror the speaker's. It's a process called neural coupling. So storytelling isn't just about getting attention, it's about getting on the same wavelength. Literally.
And if you want proof of its power, look no further than lawyer Brian Stevenson. A full 65% of his TED Talk was pure, unadulterated storytelling. And guess what? It earned him the longest standing ovation in TED history. He used stories to make a really complex topic about justice feel immediate, personal, and deeply human. The lesson here is so clear. Stories are the single most powerful weapon in a communicator's arsenal.
Okay, so once you've made that emotional connection, it's time for pillar number 2. Teach something new. You know, our brains are basically novelty-seeking machines. We're hardwired to pay attention to anything that's new, unexpected, or surprising. If you can give your audience a new perspective or a fresh take on an old idea, you have their undivided attention.
So why does this work so well? Well, it's chemistry. When we learn something new and exciting, our brain releases a chemical called dopamine. You can think of dopamine as your brain's little save button. That little rush you get when you have an aha moment, that's the dopamine kicking in, and it's chemically stamping that new information into your memory, making it much more likely to stick.
The guy who found the Titanic, explorer Robert Ballard, puts it perfectly. He says when you create a jaw-drop moment, that moment of pure awe or surprise, the mind just goes into full-on receiving mode. When you teach your audience something they truly didn't see coming, you open up this perfect little window to deliver your most important message. Their mind is wide open.
All right, you've touched their heart, you've taught them something new. But how do you make sure they remember it tomorrow or next week? That brings us to our third and final pillar, make it stick. This is all about making sure your idea has a shelf life long after your presentation is over. And it all starts with a very simple rule symbolized by this number, 18 minutes. Now, this isn't just some random number Ted picked out of a hat. It's actually based on neuroscience. If you go on for much longer than 18 minutes, you risk something called cognitive backlog. You know that feeling when you've just been hit with too much information and your brain feels like a traffic jam? That's cognitive backlog. Thinking is actually physically draining. Listening intently literally burns glucose, which is your brain's fuel. The 18-minute rule respects your audience's brain power. It ensures your message is actually absorbed, not just tolerated.
But beyond just timing, the real secret to being memorable
is to create what scientists call an emotionally charged event. This is your wow moment. It's the showstopper. It's something that jolts the audience and makes their brain attach a big chemical post-it note that says, hey, remember this?
I mean, here's the perfect example. Think back to Bill Gates' famous TED Talk in 2009. He had a huge challenge. How do you make a comfortable audience in California really feel the threat of malaria, a disease that's a world away from most of them?
He knew that putting up a chart or a grim statistic wasn't going to cut it. That wouldn't create that unforgettable, emotionally charged moment. He needed to do something dramatic, something no one in that room would ever forget.
So right in the middle of his talk, he pauses, picks up a glass jar, and says, "There's no reason only poor people should have the experience." And then he opened the jar and released a swarm of mosquitoes into the audience. Now, they were malaria-free, of course. But in that single, jaw-dropping moment, he made an abstract threat feel terrifyingly real. It became one of the most talked-about moments in TED history for a reason.
But here's the thing. There's one final element that holds all of this together. It's not really a fourth secret. It's more like the foundation that everything else has to be built on. And that's authenticity. If the speaker's genuine passion isn't there, none of these other tools will work.
You've probably heard this famous quote from Steve Jobs, and it's so true. Passion is contagious. An audience can feel it a mile away. They can tell when a speaker really, truly believes in what they're saying versus just, going through the motions. That authentic energy is what fuels everything else.
And this is why the author, Carmine Gallo, suggests we ask ourselves a slightly different question. Instead of, what are you passionate about, which can feel a little vague, he says to ask, what makes your heart sing? Because the answer to that question, that's where you'll find the source of your best stories and your most powerful communication.
So there you have it. That's the blueprint. The 3 big secrets: emotion, novelty, and memorability, all resting on that crucial foundation of passion. Now, let's pull it all together so you can start thinking about how to share your own ideas. So here it is, in a nutshell. First, you connect to the heart using the power of story. Second, you surprise the brain by teaching it something genuinely new. Third, you make that idea stick with wow moments and respecting that 18-minute clock. But the thread that pulls it all together from beginning to end is the most important part: being relentlessly, passionately, and authentically you. Oprah Winfrey just says it all right. Your most powerful communication tool isn't your slide deck, it's not a clever statistic, it's having the courage to be yourself and share what you truly care about. That courage is what turns a simple presentation into an idea worth spreading.
And that brings us to the final and really the most important question of all. It's the one that every great speaker has answered for themselves long before they ever step on stage. So forget about the data, forget about the product for just a second, and ask yourself this. What makes your heart sing? Find that, and you'll find your story. Thanks for joining The Explainer.